how would you describe autism to someone who has got no clue?
Well, that is a spectrum, and the truth is, that's probably the hard part of autism. Is each person with autism is, I won't say differently wired, but wired a little bit unordinary from the next person
Yeah.
or from another person with autism, because the spectrum states that they have the mindset of blank year olds, as I call it. I like the terms low functioning and high functioning. I think it's too harsh. So if you're on the low end, which again I hate using, but it's the best way to describe it right now, it's the words coming to my mind. You might have the mindset of a 3 year old. If you're in the middle of the road, you'll probably have the mindset of an 8 year old.
Yeah.
If you're in my case, where you're on the again high end of the autism spectrum,
Yeah.
you just might be a little bit developmentally delayed. So biologically, I'm 22, but realistically, I probably have the mindset of a 19 or 20 year old.
Yeah.
Maybe 21 if I'm lucky.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. My guest today is Sam Mitchell, and Sam is on a mission to show how beautiful that neurodivergent spectrum can be, and to work towards an inclusiveness and towards a better understanding of neurogenic states, where just there's a little bit of a different wiring, which can make people so beautifully special with amazing abilities. And it's fantastic. So, Sam, thank you very much for coming onto my show as a guest. You have got a huge following on your own show, and it's so beautiful. Let's talk autism and the whole spectrum, and let's actually talk reality. Okay?
I'm not going to stop you there, man. Let's go for it, because the autism spectrum needs to be talked about. It gets
Yes, mate.
ignored way too often. I can experience that, and I know this because I'm on the autism spectrum myself.
How many people are nowadays recognized as being neurodivergent?
But
Any figures?
there's 1 in 36.
1 in 36. I would have actually thought 1 in 10 or something thereabouts. But then
We'll get
again,
one day, no question in my mind.
the question is, are we comparing apples and oranges? I think we should definitely define, first of all, autism and autism spectrum. What is in your mind? How would you describe autism to someone who has got no clue?
Well, that is a spectrum, and the truth is, that's probably the hard part of autism. Is each person with autism is, I won't say differently wired, but wired a little bit unordinary from the next person
Yeah.
or from another person with autism, because the spectrum states that they have the mindset of blank year olds, as I call it. I like the terms low functioning and high functioning. I think it's too harsh. So if you're on the low end, which again I hate using, but it's the best way to describe it right now, it's the words coming to my mind. You might have the mindset of a 3 year old. If you're in the middle of the road, you'll probably have the mindset of an 8 year old.
Yeah.
If you're in my case, where you're on the again high end of the autism spectrum,
Yeah.
you just might be a little bit developmentally delayed. So biologically, I'm 22, but realistically, I probably have the mindset of a 19 or 20 year old.
Yeah.
Maybe 21 if I'm lucky.
And then again, there are many 40 and 50-year-olds out there who have got the mindset of a 12-year-old. So I don't think that that is necessarily a good characteristic or a good benchmark to go by. And what you're describing, are you referring to the emotional development
Yeah,
within the
emotional
person?
intelligence.
Right. And again, emotional intelligence, there are many men and many women running around out there who have absolutely no clue. They are emotionally absolutely way there. And they are biologically at, a ripe age. So that's challenging. So do you define autism in your mind only in view of the emotional development?
Yeah, because autism is a neurological condition. I mean, it's not like you're in a wheelchair where you can't see it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not visible, it's invisible.
yeah,
You probably don't see it unless we start chatting with you. Then you start seeing, oh,
yeah,
I don't want to say something ain't right here, but this person might be a little off, because that's the problem with autism, is because we don't see it, people then think, oh, because he's on the autism spectrum, he's weird.
hmm,
BS, not true all the time.
yeah,
We
yeah,
just don't know how to socialize, but try putting us behind our special interest, whatever that is.
Yeah.
For me, broadcasting. I'm in college. My last semester was studying broadcasting. Put me in front of a video camera and then see if I still am weird.
I like that because what you're pointing towards is the different strengths and weaknesses. And maybe is it fair to say that people who are on the spectrum have greater difficulties to respond or to recognize and then respond to cues, interpersonal cues, whilst their ability, their cognition might be completely unrelated, might be far superior as someone else. Is
Yeah,
that fair?
it is. A great example is actually when someone dies in the family or a
Yeah.
funeral.
Yeah.
You imagine us going there and you probably see tears flowing down.
Yeah.
And you're socially acceptable to say, I'm sorry for your loss. For us, it's like, why are you sorry for your loss? I'm not saying that I appreciate it, don't get me wrong.
Mm.
I know it's what you've been taught to do, but to me, it's so annoying because let me explain why. What can you do realistically that can bring back my dead grandfather?
I like that. Yeah.
Nothing.
I think that's a very wise thing that you're saying there. And often enough, the way we respond is very much cliche. How are you? I'm fine. Which is a bullshit answer. I mean, virtually no one is fine I'm talking to if they're actually open up and be honest. Is it a matter of people on the spectrum having no filter when it comes to
Oh,
speaking the truth?
oh yeah, no filter. Yeah, great example was earlier when you told me to look in the camera. I was like, no, and it wasn't because I couldn't do it. It was just that's mission impossible for so many people on the spectrum.
Uh-huh.
They will not play the eye contact game with you.
Oh, I see.
Activity.
I see. I see. So even the fact that the camera is a piece of plastic, it is still in your mind. There is something that stops you doing the eye game, as you call it.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
If I could tell you what it is, I would. But the camera's literally like a person.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, that explains a lot. Okay. And again, we are talking about social norms versus you just being different wired. And I describe it as differently wired. You were using the same word, but somehow it didn't feel right to you. How do you describe your state, your neurons firing? What is the best way of actually labeling or naming it?
Sometimes for those on the spectrum, it's a brain it doesn't turn off.
True, true.
I'm dead serious. Like sleep doesn't exist for me. Well, I have to have a breathing machine to sleep because I have sleep apnea as well.
Yeah.
But I know someone else who doesn't have a problem with sleep. It's just that they're on the autism spectrum and their brain doesn't stop turning. It doesn't stop. Because if he tried to get all his thoughts out, we'd be here forever. I think what the teacher did actually is really cool. Is instead of trying to say what he's thinking, he'll draw it out. And I won't say who it is, but I saw the young man at one of my events, and he was talking to Santa, and in a middle school voice, you can imagine him saying, "I want it to be Christmas forever." Well, instead of keep saying it, he drew out. He said that statement several times, but then he drew out a calendar that said 25, and it wasn't a big calendar, but a small calendar, 25, and circled it.
Okay. Is there a tendency for neurodivergent? Now, okay, go one step back. Autism and neurodivergency. Is that the same as far as you're concerned, or are there differences? What
Well,
is, are we comparing apples with oranges?
Right. Well, it could be. I mean, it depends on how you look at it, because there are some other conditions that go under the neurodivergent umbrella. So ADHD, I also had that too. That's very neurodivergent.
Yeah.
OCD could be too. depression, anxiety. I don't think that's in there. It could be mental health.
Yeah.
So it just really depends on how you look at it.
Okay. And I guess that makes it then so difficult to actually come up with figures, because depending upon how wide you cast the net, therefore it will be more common versus if you actually are very specific. Are there is there a nomenclature there? Is there a very clear diagnostic schedule? For example, for PTSD, we know we've got a tick box list. For depression, we've got a tick box list. Is there a tick box list for autism?
There's our medications out there,
Yeah, but
and
not for the diagnosis, for the recognition. How do
no,
I know that I
right,
am autistic?
you get tested by a doctor.
Yeah,
You get tested by a doctor if there's any suspicions for it. Now,
yeah,
with medicine, there have been sometimes, I don't want to say ways to cure it. I never believe in curing autism.
yeah.
And when they say that, makes me aggravated. But I do believe in medicine that helps you manage certain issues. So one of the common things that those on the spectrum have is aggression issues.
Mm,
We're not afraid to choke someone out if you really make us that mad. Let's put it that way.
mm.
Oh, we can't do that clearly. I get it. Why? I think it's perfectly reasonable why we don't choke people. So what do? We get a behavior medication
Right.
that helps out with aggression issues.
Okay. And I guess that makes sense. So if your impulse control is troubled, if you're easily flying off the handle, then if there is a medication that is maybe helping you become a little less trigger happy and therefore maybe easier in your communication with others, that's maybe not necessarily something wrong with that. Where do you think this anger is coming from?
I think it's just the way we're wired. I
Right.
think it's logical.
Is it a matter that your thinking is just so beautifully strict? Nearly, I mean, often enough, autistic people are supposed to be maybe even more mathematical, more structured in their thinking. I certainly, a good friend of mine, he is certainly very focused. Put him onto a task, and he gets really angry and pissed off if people interrupt him with a task of doing things
That's
like,
too, yes.
yeah.
When we're on the midst of something, we don't know how to handle it well.
Hmm.
Other than scream at you and tell you to shut up.
Exactly.
Or when we're that focused.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's something those on spectrum need to work at, and I have to work on it to this day.
yeah. And
I'm
again,
better
that
at it was. I just had to tell you to get away from me.
and again, there's maybe something really positive with that. I actually like this particular person I've got in my mind because he is just such a straight shooter. He is telling me in no term, in no uncertainty, not now. I've got work to do. Leave me alone. And it's good. I don't need to guess. I don't need to do anything. He is just very, very good in that. Um, Sometimes there's a lot of waffle and a lot of uh, small talk. Can you do small talk? Is that something
Uh,
that pisses you off?
I can do it, but I hate it.
Very nice.
Get to the point. We don't like beating around the bush.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I should get tested then. But because ultimately, I think there are many traits, and I think that's so difficult, isn't it? We all have certain traits that would fit very nicely with a person being on the spectrum. Yet we have got many other traits that maybe put us into some other categories. So therefore, it's so difficult to really label yourself. Is there a benefit of having a diagnosis as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think if you're on the spectrum, you're the most creative SOBs to ever walk this planet.
At least if you're highly functioning.
Right.
Yeah.
I think regardless where you're on the autism spectrum, it's
Yeah.
just that it may not be communicated really well.
I hear you. I hear you. So
That's
even if,
when you're on the autism spectrum,
sure.
is you have this good idea, but you can't communicate it.
Yeah.
I can, like with me, I can easily, word out if we're trying to create a commercial.
Yeah.
I can easily picture in my head, right? But trying to get it out with my mouth,
Yeah.
oh boy, it's not making any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. When we look at the example of trauma and PTSD in warriors, then you have got a similar scenario that often it's very, very hard for these people to describe their trauma or describe their emotions. And then suddenly you've got art therapy where not words are being used to describe the trauma or the effects, but maybe a painting or music or composing, etc., clay, whatever it is in art. Is there a similar experience amongst some autistic people that they find a new way how to communicate instead of speech?
Well, drawing's one way, for sure, like
Yeah,
the story I told you earlier, but sometimes those on spectrum are non-speaking. So what they use is a lot of technology. I
nice.
think is one, I can't remember the name of the app, but it's on an iPad. You can literally type in what you want and they'll hit it and saying Dr. Pepper or chips.
Right, right. Okay. Is there, so even if someone is not able to verbalize what is coming into their mind. I mean, you see similar things with stroke victims or with other people who have got a head injury. So that is an issue of the speech center, whilst their other brain might actually work relatively normal. So aphasia in this case. Is someone with autism who cannot speak, do you think this person has got other skills that are near the normal distribution in the population? In other words,
Right.
I hate to say normal because what the hell is normal? So no, I hate that. But I mean, if you compare it with 100 people out there, and now with a person who is on the autistic spectrum and is barely able to communicate, um, how can I imagine their mind working? What insights can I imagine there?
You can imagine us having our wheels turn like gears are turning
Yeah,
when the thing that we love.
yeah,
Now, when we're communicating, the gears are like, oh crap. But maybe if we're cooking
yeah,
or if they're an artist and they like to sing
yeah.
and they're a musician, now we're talking.
Okay,
Their gears are going to be turning.
right. Beautiful. I mean, we see nowadays more and more people being diagnosed to be on the spectrum way into their adult life. And that exactly happened with my friend. Um, what can parents look out for? How can parents maybe get a raised level of suspicion that might guide them towards getting the better support for their child?
Well, I think doctors kind of nailed on the head at first with the repetitive behaviors and restricted interests.
Yeah,
That is a sign to look out for. But maybe the no eye contact is one to look out for.
yeah,
I know you can't tell with this because kids are just blunt. Sometimes they don't play that weird social game, which I love.
yeah,
But as they get older, they should be learning that.
yeah,
And if they're still not understanding it
yeah.
or grasping it, it might be time to get tested.
Interesting. You were pointing towards the fact that people on the autism spectrum often don't recognize the social cues and the emotions of others, and maybe also don't respond with a similar emotion as you would expect, maybe with the tears, etc. Does that mean that there is no sadness? Does that mean that you don't experience sadness and depression in
No,
a similar way to me, let's say?
we experience it. It's just that with that one in particular, you can't do anything. But yes, we experience sadness like every other human being. There may not be any tears shed, but we shut down.
Right.
No words are coming out of our mouth. We may be in shock still,
Hmm.
but we're just not speaking to anyone.
Well, that must be a very lonesome place to be in.
It is, but it helps us.
Mm.
And sometimes I think we need to be alone. It's for the better.
Okay. For, let's say, me as a dad of let's say I was your dad, and I see you shutting down, I see you closing in, it would feel incredibly powerless to me, as if I can't do anything for you. What would you advise parents to do? Because parents always want to help. What can we do in such a case? What would you recommend them?
Well, I appreciate you wanting to help and you being the dad wanting to do something right and help, but you being quiet is actually helping.
Hmm.
I'll come
Okay.
around. I'm not going to stay permanently quiet forever.
Hmm. Okay. And what would you recommend a parent to do when you get angry?
Well, that's a question for the parents because I have no idea what my parents did when I was angry. But looking back on it, I think my parents should have just stayed away from me,
Right.
probably sent me to a corner or my room where I can let the anger there.
Okay.
And then when I'm ready to talk, come back out.
Hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Respect you for your boundaries. Is that really, if I wanted to summarize it and say, hey, I mean, how, when we look at love languages, there are different love languages. Basically, touch is one of them, speech, acts of service. There are a number of these things. Is what do we know about love languages amongst autistic people? There's and I'm pointing towards the touch especially.
They will tell you how it is. If they think you're the most attractive human on this planet, oh boy, they'll tell you that straight up.
Okay,
And
scary.
and another thing is too, when we're on a date, for example,
Yeah.
we are nervous and we're not afraid to tell you that either, but we're not going to play the social games that people play. Let's
Hmm.
put it that way. Like, we can pretty much tell if you're in or out in an instant.
Interesting. Interesting. I mean, so do most emotionally intelligent people. I mean, you I think I've forgotten the exact details of the studies, but typically something within 15 seconds of a male and female meeting, the female has decided will she sleep with him or not. So that's in just humans. Um, are you telling me that people with autism are what is the word? Receptive? That you pick that up faster?
Yes, yes. That's actually an excellent way to put it.
Interesting. Okay. Do you pick up other? See, that's the intriguing thing. If you pick that much faster up, would you not also then be faster in recognizing emotions on my face? Paul Ekman's work with the micro expressions, etc., where you can very quickly see if someone is lying or not. Um, is I mean, how does that work? When you
No,
say,
not with lying. We
yeah,
can be easily targeted as deceptive. You can
yeah,
easily play a magic trick on us.
right.
That is very easy to do.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so obviously some superpowers, but other powers are a bit suppressed. And I guess that's welcome to the human mankind. I think we're all like that, aren't we?
Yeah, and maybe the mess of autism too, because you'd be surprised. There's some skills that where I think, God, I succeed at, and I should be great at this skill because of it,
Yeah,
but it's not there.
brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, I'm so pleased that you're so open and honest about my probably rather stupid questions. But I on purpose asked them this way because there is so much. Yes, I've read about the topic, but I am not exposed to people with neurodivergent types, so to speak. I don't know many people on the spectrum, and certainly not on the maybe more severe spectrum. So therefore, I'm an effect finding mission here, and I find it so grateful. I'm full of gratitude that you are coming onto my show. What would you like people to know? People who are like me, not commonly exposed to people with autism. What would you like us to know?
Well, I think people need to know that give people with autism a chance. You don't know what they're capable of.
Yeah,
Look at me right now, for example. We
yeah.
were having a hard time with lighting. What did I do to solve the problem? I came up with something crazy, and
And
my
you
ink
were,
was, but it worked. I literally sat in the bathtub behind a lighting curtain. It fixed the problem. It's unconventional, but it's working. Yes.
For those of you guys out there listening here, Sam is literally sitting in his student place in the bathtub because we had trouble with the lighting, we had trouble with everything, and he came up with a very unorthodox solution, which was actually superb. What a great way of thinking outside of the box, and I absolutely loved it. And I think that is a classic example, isn't it?
Yeah.
We
And
are,
another example, you'll laugh at this one. So I'm at a court. Well, I'm not at Cornell, but with Cornell University, I'm doing public online speaking PD courses. Well, they wanted me from head to toe to record the camera. Well, every angle I got the camera, it was literally from head to crotch, not head to toe. So I came with the unorthodox idea to stand on a trash can, not in the trash can, but I'll flip the trash can around at the bottom of it. And it wasn't like a big trash can. It's one of those small trash cans you get for a room. And I literally stood on that for the whole time I was speaking as a stage. Yeah, unorthodox, but it worked.
Exactly. And I think that is the skill of a good leadership to be able to think outside of the square. And I think we are seeing that now in America, certainly with a change in government and with the government bringing in people who are thinking outside of the box, isn't it? Does that make you proud?
It makes me proud, but I just laugh at myself sometimes. It's like, how do I come up with these crazy ideas?
Yeah. Well, I guess if you have got A, no filter, and B, no limit to your expectations, and say, well, why is it not possible that I do X? Then suddenly you send rockets up into the air and you do some very crazy inventing, crazy restructuring that other people would never have done because maybe their social, oh, what's the word or the words? Hey?
We'll go with that.
We are maybe held back, and maybe we need visionaries. Do you think many visionaries in history, when you look back, were on the spectrum?
There's no question in my mind about it. Let's look at Einstein, Mozart, Bill Gates, even.
Yeah,
There have been rumors of Bill Gates being autistic.
yeah. Huh, exactly. It is, and there we are. We need sometimes that kind of crazy, and when I say crazy, the expectations, the what everyone expects to happen, or this will never work, and boom, someone makes it work. And the Roger Bannister, the 4 minute mile, he was the first one who broke it, and no one believed that it ever would be possible. He did it, and here we are. So I think it is beautiful to see people who don't take no for an answer. And it's nice to recognize and have someone neurodivergent on your team. So I'd rather have you on my team and actually say, why can't we do that? And encourage me and maybe give me a crazy idea that might work. Oh, that is something. What else would you like people to know? I mean, there
I
must be so many
I
frustrations amongst
know
you.
this words of wisdom. If the bro could be nice and not act so stupid, I think we get along so much better, man.
Well, that applies to absolutely everything. I don't need neurodivergence there. I just can have skin color, religion, politics. You've got the divided states of America at the moment, and not surprising that that also applies towards autism and towards neurodivergence, isn't it?
Right.
So let's play nice together, but there must be specific frustrations for you living with autism.
Well,
Do you?
I also have sensory feelings. I'm kind of trying to be a little short because I'll be honest with you, my feet are killing me right now. Sitting like, but
No, no, and then absolutely, there is always a natural end to an interview. I think you're an amazing man, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, brother. Um, I know you've got your own show. Tell us about your show and tell us
yeah,
where people can find you.
girls.com. I'm not a hard guy to find. If you Google me and search engine optimization, something will pop up.
Absolutely. And guys, down there as the description in the of the YouTube video and of the podcast, Sam's details are there. You're an amazing man. Thank you very much for holding the flag up there for people with autism and being neurodivergent. It was an absolute honor to have you on my show.
Not a problem. Thank you, dude.
Look after yourself, brother. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up.